Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Today, I got a really cool episode, and this is one that is not necessarily hunting focused, but more mindset focused, because this being the Soulful Hunter Podcast, we're constantly talking about speaking words into existence, manifesting what you want out of life. We're talking about building community with that mentorship as conservation and all sorts of stuff with how, hunting has the power to transform your life. Well, at the same time, for us to go inward and reflect inward brings outward correction into everything that we do. And just like Master Yoda himself said in Star Wars, there is no try, only do. And so when we're talking about how we show up in the world and how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about our actions and what we're going to be doing, I really wanted to have a podcast specifically dedicated to the power of words and intention and how important community is and all that. So today's guest is Justin Atherton from Confidence Unchained out of Houston, Texas area, right, Justin?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
awesome. And so we're going to be talking to him. He is a police officer, and I'm going to let him share his story a lot more, but we're going to be diving into why he is even on this podcast and why it's so important. So I believe that inward reflection leads to outward correction, and the best thing that we can always invest in is ourselves, because when we show up as a better human being in this world, we make this world a better place, and we let our light shine brighter for all humanity to see. So Justin, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast today.
Johnny, I'm really excited for this conversation, man. I've been looking forward to it for a while. I know you and I have been having some conversations, so I'm glad to be here, man.
I love it. I'm honored that you are here as well. So give the listeners a little bit of a background on your story and what led you to creating Confidence Unchained and all that.
Sure. So my career is in law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement for over 14 years. I've done everything from being on the SWAT team to being a detective, a supervisor, training officer, and I really found my passion with the training aspect of it. I enjoyed training people one-on-one, and then again being in the leadership roles, training the groups of guys and really focusing on that. So that's where the passion for creating my business came from. It was really that one-on-one training. I get a lot out of it, like just seeing the immediate impact I can have in someone's life. So about 3 years ago, I started my coaching business for men, and I use a lot of the law enforcement tools that I've gathered along the way, but turn them into some self-development tools. And I know we're going to talk about a couple of them today, which I'm excited to share. And in seeing how important that these tools are and how they can be self-development tools for yourself. Like these are things I use on myself every day or I pass on to my daughter, but I love passing on to my clients and seeing the huge difference that it can make.
Man, that's so cool. It is so much fun to talk with somebody who knows what they want and knows their true self. And I think that's lost in today's society is people don't actually know. Well, let me back up for a second. Identity issues is like a crisis in America,
Mhm.
and so backing up even more is knowing who you are and what you want. You talk about midlife crisis or people not getting married now until their 30s because they want to live their life and kind of establish themselves or sow you know their wild oats or whatever it is. Why is it so important for people to identify what it is that they want?
I love that you brought the identity piece here because this is something I struggled with personally. I had um, there was an incident where I had to resign. I was forced to resign from a previous agency over a um, they accused me of insubordination, and so it was a strictly admin thing. And going through that process, the thoughts going through my head because all I had done, working through the prison system, being a police officer for years, in my head, I'm like, well, what if I can't do this job anymore? What am I going to do? Like, what else can I do? There was this whole identity crisis that I was having. And it took me some time to realize it was like I almost had to step outside myself and go, oh, hang on a minute. Look at the skill set that I've developed in my career. Look at the stuff that I can do. I can do whatever the hell I want. And it took really just stepping outside myself in this narrow focus of who I thought I was. Like, oh, I'm Justin. I'm the SWAT guy. I'm the detective. It's no, that's not who we are. It's unfortunate that we introduce ourselves in a way to where it's like, oh, well, what do you do, Johnny? Well, what do you? The first question we ever ask anybody is, what is your profession?
Right.
And we give so much weight to that. And I think I was talking about it with Johnny Elsasser, or maybe that's why you brought it up. Great guy, great podcast, The Art of Masculinity. It would be such an interesting idea if we started the conversations with our own values rather than saying, what do you do, Johnny? It's like, what do you believe in?
Yeah. Right.
And going like, well, you know what? I believe in integrity, authenticity, and honesty are the most three important things in this world. Think about the conversations that we would have. Think about how that would change the dynamic of that first impression with someone rather than waiting it on what do you do for a living. It's like what are your beliefs and values? Think
Yeah.
about how that would change the identity and get people to think about what do I really believe in? What are my values and beliefs?
Can I just ask a question real quick and more and a statement also at the same time is like there is a saying that we are the sum of the people, we are the average of the people that we surround
Mhm.
ourselves with. And so if
Sure.
you're talking about instead of leading in with like, hey, well, what profession are you? Or this being the Soulful Hunter podcast, I'm Johnny Mack, I'm a hunter. Like that's not my identity. That is
Sure.
something that I participate in, but that's not who I am. That's not my foundation of my life. And so I guess really what I'm asking is we have this thought that we are the average of the people we surround ourselves with. So it shortens the journey or the buying process or I don't know, however you want to call it of
Mm,
like, okay, well, you are someone I want in my tribe. You are someone I
sure.
want to do life with. I want to journey with. I want to, you know, as it says in the Bible, iron sharpens iron, so the countenance of one friend to another, right? I want to sharpen with you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, I think it would be I think it would be powerful, and I know I talked to Johnny Elsasser about it. I was like, dude, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna be like, you know what? Don't ask me what I do. Ask me what I believe in, and then just flip the conversation on its head and not tell somebody what I do, and just tell them my three core values.
Yeah.
and see how that goes. So that's going to be an interesting experiment for me to do.
Man, that's huge. So all you listeners out there, and you're like, dude, what does this have to do with hunting? I thought this was a hunting podcast. This podcast is about life. It is the Soulful Hunter. We talk about hunting, but we also talk about what drives us, what motivates us, where do we ground ourselves in. And why I wanted to have Justin on this podcast is to share a different perspective that those of you who all only listen to hunting podcasts, you might have your mind expanded. You know, if you've ever seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Cameron is in the art museum and he's standing like inches away from that picture, that painting, and all he sees is dots. But then when it backs up and it shows him standing like 10 to 15 feet away, you can see it's a beautiful painting. So often in life, we have this narrow blinders on that all we can see is just like 3 feet in front of us, and we're not actually getting the whole picture. And with you guys, you listeners being hunting or hunters, you realize how important it is to have visibility, to see clearly,
Mm.
to have vision for the future, for the moment, so that you can assess where you're at and adapt and move to achieve your target or your goal or whatever it is in life. And so, Justin, what are some of the things that you can talk about and share to help people identify these things?
Sure. There's a couple tools that I really, start off with that are really important. And one of them goes into these sabotage words. These words that are prevalent in our conversations that sabotage whatever we're doing. And you brought it up really good with that Yoda quote. There is no try. There is only do or do not. I think that is so important to understand. And trying is one of those sabotage words. And we could go into the list with that as well. It's like wanting or planning or, I'd love to or mean to. Like Johnny, you and I could have a conversation right now. Like, hey, I'm trying to plan a hunting trip, or oh man, well, I've been planning on doing this, and I want to do this. Well, after our conversation, we didn't talk about anything. Like,
Right.
there's no substance to it at all, and when we talk about things in that manner, it leads us to believe that failure is okay because our subconscious is always listening to what we're saying. So if I say, I'm going to try to eat better, our subconscious goes, I mean, we're going to put in some effort. Like we might eat one salad and then, then we're going to the, T-bone and baked potato
Right.
and the next meal. So your subconscious is always listening. And for those that rebuke it and say, it's just words. It's not that big of a deal. All right, guys, I dare you to walk up to your spouse and say, I'll try to be faithful to you.
Oh.
Or
Wow.
even,
No,
I want to be faithful. I plan on being
I
faithful.
had intentions to be faithful.
Like listen to that. Like we assume or we want, or your spouse definitely wants 100% certainty when you make that statement. I will be faithful. I am going to be faithful. So
I am faithful.
I am faithful, right? So why, if we expect 100% certainty in that statement, why are we allowing ourselves and each other to talk with this level of uncertainty? Because Johnny, if you tell me you're going to try to do something, I'm
Yeah.
going to call you out. I'm
Yeah.
like, Johnny, are you going to do it or not?
Right.
Don't tell me you're going to try to do it.
Yeah.
So that is one of the biggest tools, and there's all these different categories, but that one is the most prevalent in these sabotage words that we use.
And what I want to convey and get across to listeners, and you nailed it on the head, is when you are speaking, that is the existence that you are creating for yourself. There's I had someone reach out to me one time. They're like, "Well, you can't actually like speak things into existence." And I was like, "Well, yeah, you can, because when I say I am going to hunt out of state next year, or let's say I'm going to make a plan, I've never hunted a certain state." And I'm using a hunting narrative on this because the hunting
Sure.
podcast, but if you say, "Well, I'd really love to hunt out of state someday." Okay, well, right there, it's not going to
Sure.
happen.
No.
Or it's like, no, I'm going to. This is
Mhm.
the year I'm going to do it. This I am already in action. So when you speak it, it holds yourself accountable to then
Yes.
follow through on it. And just like you were saying, how if I said try, you'd be like, whoa, 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 that's not okay. The same
Mhm.
concept applies to whether you're trying to get fit and be like, I am going to make sure I am in a level of fitness that is going to sustain me through my hunting seasons. I'm in a mind state that is going to sustain me in a healthy relationship, not only with my spouse, my kids, my work, and all these things. We create our moments each and every day by the words
Yeah.
that we say, and even before the words that we say, the thoughts that we think.
Yeah.
And ourselves are our biggest hurdle.
Oh, 100%. We are our worst critic. We are our worst, obstacle to get through, because we talk more crap to ourselves than anyone else ever would. So it's
Y-
you got to shut that
Yeah,
down.
words of affirmation are huge. I have a
Mhm.
contract with myself. I've shared it on this podcast, but if you're new to listening to The Soulful Hunter, this might be the first time you've heard this. I have as a screensaver on my phone, but I've also written it up on my mirror for when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning or evening or whatever. Anytime I'm looking in the mirror, my contract with myself is a I am statement because it's
Mm.
not a I might be, it's not a I will be. It is I am. In this moment, I am establishing myself of who I am. I'm grounding myself. And it is I am a powerful, inspiring, loving leader. I am a
I like
powerful,
that.
inspiring, loving leader, and I get to stand upon my belief of who I am and go out into the world with that. So that
Mhm.
when I am going into my workplace or when I'm going hunting or with the concept of mentorship as conservation, I don't have to be afraid and let fear control me and say, oh, I don't know enough. I can't give to other people. I can't share my value and my worth with other humans because I'm afraid I don't know it all. The mastery of when you master a topic, it means for you to be able to reteach it to somebody else. And so if you
Yeah.
want to master a topic, then start teaching it to other people because it's once again coming back to that accountability. It's going to hold you accountable for what you know and what you say
Mhm.
because once again, it causes you to go inward so that you can outwardly reflect.
Exactly.
Man,
Yeah, I agree with that.
I Justin, I had you on as a guest. I don't want to just go on and I want to hear what you have to say because when it comes to the power of words, intention, and positive talk, we already talked about dismissing the word try. Got to remove
Mhm.
it. What are some of the other words that you specifically recommend as like, we're going to just say like no words, like cross it off
Sure.
and get rid of it, remove it from your language and your everyday speak?
Sure. So they're almost blocked into different categories. So the ones that we just went over with try, wanted, planning, those are all like the stop action verbs because they literally stop action. Another one would be absolutes: always, never, no, none, only. These show up in our arguments. You always do this. You never do this. You only do this when. Well, what happens is that when we start using these words in a debate, discussion, argument, that the argument starts to turn into focusing on the words themselves. Well, you said I never do it, but there was this one time I did it. And you said I only do it. I said, well, that's not true. It's because of this here. So you're not actually arguing about the context of the argument. You're arguing over the absolutes, the words that you're actually using. So those are always never a good idea. See what I did there?
Yep.
Uh, but so that's another category of words that sabotage what we're attempting to accomplish. If you want to have a debate with someone, remove the absolutes because they're not true. To say someone never does something or only does something, that's rarely going to be accurate.
Yes. Yes. Okay,
So that's another
I
group.
have two words for you that I have specifically oh baby. I have removed from my language. There are certain
It's
times.
okay to say I'm working on something. So that's another factor too. Is rather than, saying I'm bad at something, say, hey, I'm working on getting better at this. So
I'm in
so that
transition.
it's
Yes.
there you go. It's okay to admit that and say I'm in a learning process.
Okay, so the two words that I do not like using in my language is the word but
Yes.
and should. And I really want you to speak to these if you have any experience or perspective on it. Specifically, I feel like anytime I use the word but, or when the word but is used in a sentence to me, like, hey,
Yeah.
Justin, you're a great guy, but,
But
you know,
yeah, that
and it's the difference between and or. But go ahead and speak to that.
mhm. Yeah, I've removed this from my vocabulary. Like you said, everyone has felt that emotional trigger when someone says "but" because you just hit the a hammer on what was just said before. It's like, man, I really like you, Johnny, but this here, you literally deleted everything before. If you use a compound sentence with the word "but" in the middle of it, you might as well have deleted everything beforehand. Because and this is for the leaders out there, the parents out there. It has such an emotional impact. So whether you're talking to your kids or someone that works for you in your business, you can put and it completely changes the context. Even if it's criticism, it will still land the same. It's like, Johnny, I think you're a really good employee, and there's a couple things we need to work on.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, but there's a couple things we need to work on. It lands completely different. The other option is to just put a period and make two whole sentences. Johnny, I think you're a really good employee.
Period.
There's some things we need to work on to get you to where you need to be working for this company. I love using the word and. I've played with the idea of flipping it around because in a way you could delete the negative, but I don't know how effective that is going to be. You could say, Johnny, we have some things we need to work on, but I think you're a really good employee. It flips it on its head, right?
Uh-huh.
We're deleting the negative rather than deleting the positive. That's going to take some more mental work for you to do to realize I need to flip this sentence completely on its head. So maybe that works better in some type of written context if you feel that but is appropriate in there, if there's something negative you want to diminish. um, but delete it from your vocabulary is the easiest
I love it.
way to go.
It's so interesting that I forget where I heard this. It could be biblical, it could just be an old proverb, but to be slow to speak and quick to listen.
Hmm. There
And
you go.
and so what it's saying is like be slow to speak. It's not like draw on your words. It is think about what you're saying before
Hmm.
you say it because delivery is extremely important. We talked about I just recorded an episode which this episode has not released yet. It might release by the time this episode comes out, but it was but and uh, and we talked about hunting guides and how when you show up and you're paying thousands of dollars to go on a guided hunt, how you have this preconceived notion of what that guide looks like, how he or she holds themselves, whatever it
Mhm.
is, and then the moment that you walk up and they don't look like that, it's really devastating. And
Mm.
so these preconceived ideas of how we look at other people and how we look at ourselves and how we speak is just it's so powerful, and yet we just ignore it like it's not an important part of our life and that like it doesn't
Sure.
have any effect on us. Um, Talking about the word should, I always it makes a good joke that I never like to should on people. Okay, we're not.
Yeah.
This is not a shouldy podcast. We don't should. I never say, oh man, you really should have done that, or hey, you should
Mhm.
work out, or you should eat healthier, or you should Start reading books because knowledge is power. I'm not shooting on people. Also, don't should on yourself. Is this a word that you've specifically targeted or had experience with removing it?
It's an interesting thing. It because it's nothing but criticism, right? I see it pop up in a lot of policies that are written. It's like the employee should do this or should refrain from this. So it's a weird half suggestion because there's a huge difference between should and will or may or
Or do
or
not?
must.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a huge difference there. So should is another one of those words that's like wishy-washy. It's like, okay, you should stop smoking. It's like, okay, yeah. You tell someone that and they're just gonna look at you and go, okay, yeah, I you shouldn't, eat 5 pizzas a day. It's like, okay, thanks for the advice. So it's I never like to tell people what they should or should not do. There's different ways to make suggestions. Obviously, y- within your close relationships, things are a little bit different. It's like I don't tell my daughter she should clean her room. I'm like, go clean your room. There's a, there's a clear difference there. It's an instruction. It's not a suggestion, and so it's based on the context. It's not useful. I don't see where it's like it's not a clear statement to be useful in any real context. It's like, oh, we should go shopping later for groceries. Okay, yeah, probably because our fridge is empty. So it's like, what I mean, are you gonna do it or not? It's like, don't tell me what you should do. Tell me what you're going to do. And so anyone around me, I hold accountable to these words that just undermine, what we want to accomplish. And it may be something that I've by default deleted from my vocabulary. It's just not something that I use on a regular basis. I may add it into my sabotage words. There's always other stuff that comes up, right? Like however, although, those type of things. But it's an interesting thought. But to me, should is another half-ass undermining word that we need to get rid of. Not should get rid of. We need to get rid of.
Totally, totally. Okay, so next thing I want to bring up and talk about, this is all building. It's all interrelated, interconnected. The head game. The head game, and we talked about this, how we are our biggest critic. We also get in the
Hmm.
way of ourselves more often than anything else in this world.
Sure.
The head game. You have your business Confidence Unchained is its
Hmm.
name. Speak towards the difference of confidence versus cocky and
Okay.
and why the importance of having confidence, not only for what you want to do, but also who you are.
Sure. Well, I'll start off by saying that I don't believe that confidence is a skill because I get asked, quite often. It's like, oh, how do I become more confident? How do I speak more confidently? And confidence is a state because confidence is perceived by other people in how you act and how you don't act. Because there are a list of actions that you can say that if you do this, you are perceived as being confident. And if you don't do this, again, you are being perceived as confident. And so, yes, there is a fine line between cockiness or yeah, I say arrogance and confidence because I think that that's a more accurate way to describe it because it's okay to be confident, like to have belief in your ability and to act with certainty, and then other people will perceive you as being confident. Arrogance is undue confidence. It's when you're confident about something that you shouldn't be. Like I'm very confident in the interviews that I have in the tasks that I take on. But if I said, "Hey, Johnny, I'm going to make you the best cake you've ever had," that's arrogance for me. I don't know how to bake a cake, man. It's gonna like I'll be lucky if it comes out of the oven like looking like a cake. So for me, it's the arrogance level comes into where is your skill set lie?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there that either believe that they're a higher skill level than they are. Really, I think it's that they're lying to themselves about it, or they're afraid of looking bad. And so it's like, whether it's hunting, it's like, oh, Johnny, I'm gonna, I'm gonna get 3 deer today, or whatever the bag limit is,
Yeah.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I know I'm gonna do this, but it's your first time hunting. You've never been out there before. You're not even like a good shot, but you want to talk yourself up. That's the arrogance level.
Yeah.
Own your failures, own the holes in your skill set, so you can improve. Because, Johnny, if I'm on a hunting trip with you, I'm going where you're going, man. I'm like, you're the man. I will follow you. You tell me something. I'm like, oh, through the woods there, or we need to be quiet for a second and hunker down. I'm gonna listen,
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna say, oh no, hang on, John. I'm gonna lead the way. I know where we need to, because I don't.
Yeah.
And I will own that.
Yeah, let me jump in here for a second because you made me get a visual. Confidence is for yourself. Arrogance is for other people.
I like that. I
And
like how you put that.
and how you hold yourself. We get to live the life that we want to live, right?
Mhm.
In the Declaration of Independence, it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we get to go forth in this world knowing who we are, where we stand, where we are grounded and rooted, and then we show up in this world making it a better place because we know ourselves. And then that's confidence. Arrogance is this egotistical, hey, check me out, bro. Look at
Sure.
me. Like social media, for example. Dude, social media,
Mhm.
there's good and bad to it. The bad is that it is like uh, a measuring contest of your
Yep.
private parts, because it's like, hey, look at this, look what I did,
It's full of lies and arrogance. Yeah, I mean, there can be some good stuff to it, but yes, I agree with that assessment that it can be full of lies and arrogance. So I love how you put that the confidence is for yourself and the arrogance is trying to show off for other people.
Yeah, it just, because I cannot stand when someone is all about trying to get that attention because of
Hmm.
what they're doing. Like, if you have something to give the world that's really captivating, awesome. And I commend you for it.
Sure.
Don't, in my eyes, my perspective, it doesn't benefit what you're trying to show off if you're doing it for reasons that aren't healthy. And
Hmm.
and health is determined, there's 6 aspects of health. There's spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and vocational health. And those of you who don't know what the word vocational is, it's like your job, your pursuit that captivates a majority of your time. And I think that is lost in this world, and it really starts with people not knowing who they are,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
why they go about doing things.
Well, and not being authentic, because if you're really just being authentic and you're sharing something, that's different than trying to like impress somebody. It's the difference, in the interviews we talk about when people are tending to be deceptive. It's the difference between conveying information and convincing someone.
Mm,
Because if you're just giving information just to convey information, that is honest, that is truthful. But if you're trying to convince them, man, I am the best hunter out there. Man, I shot this deer like through the eye socket the other day, like this, like you like that is convincing.
yeah,
And when you're trying to convince someone, normally that is more deceptive and untruthful.
right,
So there's
right.
there's the clear difference
You
right
can
there.
lead a horse to water, but you
Hmm.
can't. But you can't make it drink. But you can't make it drink, and you can't make it drink. So it is two things, and so I like to talk a lot about hunter recruitment and hunter mentorship. If you want hunting numbers to grow, then you need to be, like you said, authentic
Hmm.
and show the world why it's so special. Not look at this, look at
Yeah,
what I'm doing. That's so special. Like Justin, I want you to come hunt sometime. Like, do you have much of a
sure.
hunting background?
I do not. I think the last thing I hunted was some quail.
Yeah.
It
So,
was a long time ago.
so why do you not hunt?
It wasn't something that I was exposed to growing up. I don't like to admit it a lot, but I grew up in Los Angeles, so there's not a lot of hunting going on other than maybe on the east side of LA. But it's definitely not something I was exposed to. Now I live in Texas. There's a lot more of my friends and coworkers. They do hunt on a regular basis, and I will gladly eat the backstrap whenever they come home with a little bit of extra.
Oh
But
yeah.
I just haven't been exposed to it, so that's my excuse.
Okay, so when you have someone who's showing you a bunch of pictures of dead animals, or I guess I'm at a loss for words, like how to really put this. What would captivate you to make you want to join the movement and become a hunter, to
The
pursue?
food aspect. For
Yeah.
me, it's food motivation. I'd be like, "Oh, man, I need to get a deep freeze. I can, like, stock up, for the year on all the meat I'm gonna eat." For me, that would be it. Sh sh Showing me pictures, I was like, "Oh, cool, man. You got some antlers. You got, a head on your wall." Like, for me, that's not it. Like, that's not never something that's gonna hang up on my wall. But I will have a deep freeze full of some, venison. I'm good with that. So, I'd be food motivated for the hunting aspect.
I love that. I love that. It's so beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to tie everything back together. And this next thing that I want to talk about is this concept of community. And
Mhm.
you, through your leadership roles and the different courses that you put on, you believe in the power of community. I believe that we're
Mhm.
not meant to be alone. We're
Yeah,
there are certain people that for whatever reason want to go take off into the mountains, be solo, be I don't know. I mean, to me,
yeah,
I love talking to other people. I get really tired of talking to myself and I want to
sure.
get out of my head. We have these dialogues in our heads nonstop with ourselves. But that community, when we get to share our life and our experience with other people and others do it in return, dude,
Mhm.
there's no greater thing. Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about the power of community and some of the things that you take and apply for your SWAT teams and the leadership development that you do?
Sure. I'll start off by saying that I used to be one of those guys that just wanted to like go off in the woods by himself and just like find a place like where can I go where there's no people? I used to like say that on a regular basis. Like I hate people. I just want to be by myself. I want to like be alone. Like I don't want to interact with other people. Really what that is that's us being uncomfortable interacting with others, with those emotions that are coming up, or just not understanding the levels of communication that we have. And so that used to be me. But now I talk to everybody. Now it's fun for me. Like my girlfriend gives me crap because if we hop in an Uber or something, I'm gonna know the Uber driver's life story before we get to our destination.
Doesn't matter if it's a
And if
mile
they're
down the road.
yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna know it, and if they're from another country, they're gonna be playing the music from their country because I asked them to, and I'm gonna like expose me to some stuff. For me, it's practicing those skill sets. So I talk to everybody. I talk to people at the grocery store, the gas station. Sometimes I get myself in some long conversations that I'm like, oh, I started this. I'm like, I gotta wrap this up. Let me ask a close-ended question real quick so I can slide on out of here. But I know that I initiated this. But it's so important, and for all the different coaches and consultants out there, what I've found is there is an overall theme of this support system that we have that you build around yourself. You talked about, the we are the sum of the people that we surround ourselves with. That is immensely important, especially for success and happiness, which can go hand in hand. So your family around you, protecting your support system, making sure that there is open communication within your family, within your kids, and also like you said in your different work environments, whether it's on the SWAT team or being a detective and being a group of people with the same goals in mind. That's important because we get to have conversations and grow. I don't know how many amazing conversations I've been able to have over the last few years. And I'm like, I take something away from every conversation I have. And my community is slowly growing and growing. And I'm like, oh, cool. Who else can I talk to learn something? Oh man, I want to implement that into my business. So it's like, oh, this was a really great idea, or this solidified an idea that I was already mulling over. So that community, like, is your foundation. Because yes, you can accomplish some great things alone, but it's a harder road.
Right.
And when you have breakdowns, when you have these setbacks, disappointments, and failures, like, and if you don't have a support system there, your recovery is going to be a lot slower, to bounce back from whatever that setback was, than if you had family around them, a good support system, to be able to communicate with and be like, hey, dude, I know you're going through, Johnny. It seems like that's really tough, you know, but do you want some advice, or do you just want to vent to me for a few minutes, and having that, rather than, like you said, having that conversation with yourself, listen to yourself complain about your situation, and then it's like, yeah, and I agree, and it's like, wait a minute, this is just a negative spiral in your own head that
Yep.
keeps you in that negative space. So being able to communicate with other people, positive people, you have to that's a huge factor. This is a conversation I have about removing negative influences in your life. Sometimes that's people,
Mm,
sometimes it's family,
yeah.
that you have to limit your exposure to them. But that community, you can craft that.
Yeah. I want to address to all the listeners out there who you don't I don't know if you know me personally or you do not know me. I had to cut my parents out of my life. My mom and
Mm.
dad, I am not in a relationship with anymore. I do not man, it's been a few years. And one of the
And
reasons
I bet people give you crap for that, Johnny.
yeah, they're like, dude, how could you not talk to your parents anymore? And I'm
Hmm.
like, when I am around them, somehow, and once again, I'm not, and this is something that people need to understand, and this is like a whole nother concept, is that you don't allow yourself to give your power away to other people. So my
Hmm.
children, when they don't listen, they're not causing me to be angry. I'm getting angry because they are not listening and following my instructions or expectations. When I am around my parents, I have an overwhelming sense of anger and, uh, well, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. An overwhelming sense of anger that boils up that then affects my other aspects of my life, my marriage,
Hmm.
my relationship with my children, my, you name it. Now, I get to also address my anger and the reasons behind that. However,
Sure.
like we talked about earlier in the podcast, I'm working through that. And so this is, well, first of all, this is a very vulnerable thing for me to be sharing for the world to hear this. But with that being said, I had to I I didn't have to. I wanted to remove that relationship be,
Sure.
because I am a healthier person without them in my life. Because
Yeah.
as a father, as a leader of my household, I have obligations to my wife and children that they need a father that's mentally stable, that's mentally healthy, that's emotionally stable and healthy, and is not going to be pushed around like the wind, you know?
Hmm.
And so yes, you need to be careful or at least reflective of the people that you are surrounding yourselves with. I'm a middle school
Yeah.
health teacher. I'm always talking about either you are building people up or you are tearing them down. Either you
Sure.
are, Justin, I'm either building you up right now or I'm tearing you down. There's really no in between. Because if I'm tearing you down, you're not going to want to be in community with me. If I'm building
Hmm.
you up, then you're like, I like this. This makes me feel good, or it's attributing to my life in a positive.
Yeah.
Talk.
It's a tough thing for people to approach that, and that's something I had to deal with myself, and that is an extreme case, and a lot of people can't do what you did, to cut people off completely. So the suggestion to alter that would be to limit your exposure to those people. If you feel like I can't cut off my mom and dad completely, even though I know that they're negatively impacting me, limit your exposure. You can create boundaries. One of the things I use, because I was in a similar, I didn't talk to my mother for years, and then slowly started letting her come back in. But whenever it turned to those same negative conversations, I would either just get up and walk away, like I will not allow this conversation to happen. This is not one that I'm going to involve myself with. And so you're almost training the other person that whenever they do initiate those conversations, it's like it's done. That it's over.
And
So
just
those boundaries are important
yes,
too.
and just to speak into my personal experience with my parents, those boundaries were set, and then those
Yeah.
boundaries were crossed, and I
Sure.
said,
Sure.
"Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore."
So there's steps, right? And so it's like if they continue to violate the boundaries, it's like I know where you stand. It's like, all right, now I'm removing you from that. The other side, when you can't completely remove yourself, so this idea was brought up to me, and initially I felt so much disgust and contempt when this was brought up. So I was talking to a coach of mine, and I'm divorced, and we were having a conversation about the communication between me and my ex-wife, and he said, look, he's like, your ex-wife is your greatest teacher.
Mm.
And I felt like it hit me like a brick in the face. I was like, no, I don't want that. And like I was like, this is horrible, what are you talking about? And I sat there with it for about 30 seconds, and I was like, crap, you're right. Because every interaction that I have with her is another opportunity for me to improve my skills, to practice my skill set, because she's the only person left in this world that can still push my buttons. I have crapped everyone else. It just makes me laugh. But somehow she is the only person left in the world that can push those buttons. So whenever I do interact with her, I know that this is an opportunity for me to really up my game. Am
Yes.
I going to fall into those old ways of behavior, or am I going to step up and go, I got this. I can handle this.
I love that because I talk on this podcast a lot about life happens for us. It doesn't
Mm,
happen to us. We are
there you
not
go.
a result of the circumstances in our lives. We get to take what's happening and apply it so it is a positive.
Yeah.
Your ex-wife, God love her soul, God bless her soul. Like she's your greatest teacher because
Hmm.
what she's causing you to look at. And I've also had a lot of people have shared with me that what we what we get back from a lot of people is oftentimes just the reflection of what we're putting out and the things that we get to deal with in our own hearts and our own minds.
Sure.
And is that something that you've experienced and seen as well?
Yeah. I guess you can go into the side to where we bring our own perception to every conversation we have, right? If you go into a conversation thinking this is going to be horrible, we're going to get in an argument, then that's going to happen. So you brought that to the table. So I think it's very important to have that level of self awareness is when you go into an interaction to have an open mind about it. Because we all go into things, oh, this isn't going to work out. Oh, I'm going to try to make this deal. Oh, it's probably not going to happen. Screw that. I go into everything with the idea of I'm going to come out better on the other side. When I used to, be a detective, I worked with some guys that were like, oh, this guy's not going to tell us anything. I'm like, no, screw you. He's going to tell me everything. I'm
Yes.
like, and I'm going in there with that mindset. I'm like, I'm going to find out I'm going to find out stuff I didn't know I needed to ask about. That's how confident I am going into this interview. So
I
it's really about the mindset.
Dude, it's huge. I've never entered a film in any type of film festival before in my entire life. I have a YouTube channel up with some cool hunts, but and I'm using the word but they're not that good of videos in
Mhm.
regards to, you know, it's entertainment to an extent. However, I entered a film into a film festival this year and I was like, and we filmed it not knowing that the intent was to be in a film festival. So there was already like we were behind the game a little bit without the knowledge of that we're doing this with intent.
Sure.
And so I'm like, no, guys, do you realize we're gonna make it in the film festival? I'm talking to my surrounding buddies, and they're like, yeah, it'd be awesome if we get selected. I'm like, no, we're in it, and we're going to win the film festival. And for all you listeners out there, it's the Badlands Film Festival that I'm talking about. And they're like, okay, cool. And I'm like, no, like it's already happened. The confidence is not the
Mhm.
arrogance. It is knowing
Sure.
that what we do is first rate. It is not second place anymore. It is
Yeah.
going with, I'm going to achieve this because I want to achieve this. It is the American dream. Think it, dream it, believe it, envision it, make it happen. And
I like that because you pass it on to your team, right? And then it changes their behavior rather than going like, oh, we're going to try to do it. No, guys, we're going to make this happen. It's going to be the best film that we've ever done. And so they're like, oh, crap, I need to step up my game now. And so the production team is stepping up and the editing guys, like, they're all leveling up because of your level of I'm getting chills right now thinking about that, just that plugging that in there, right? And the emotion that triggers in them for them to up level their skills. So it goes back to speaking it into existence, right? If I know that this is what's going to happen, and you spread that to your team, that is super powerful because they end up leveling up for the project as well.
yeah, and that goes into the whole community. And when you surround
Hmm.
yourself with people that are open and willing to engage in ideas or concepts that they may not normally practice, it's
Sure.
contagious, right? If I frowned at you, it's normal for you to want to frown back. If I smile at you, you're naturally going to want to smile back at me. When I say to
Hmm.
you, we are winning this film festival, it's like, oh yeah, dude, yeah, we're winning this film festival. Or I'm going to go accomplish this goal or set out for whatever it is. It's like asking out a girl back in like middle school, high school. You're like, I don't know if she's gonna say yes. Well, she already said no if you're already in that
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm taking this girl out on a date. I've had my eye on her for a while. Um, it's gonna happen. And it happens.
Sure.
That's like the mindset, the speaking into existence, that confidence,
Hmm.
not arrogance. This
Yes.
this life, you can accomplish and do and achieve anything you want in this life. So what is it? What do you want? I love it. Man, Justin, you are getting me fired up. I'm glad that you got some goosebumps because I'm over here sitting like, okay, what else do I want to do? I speak a lot about like my manifest board or vision boards. Like,
Mhm.
what do you want? Take a look at it. Don't be afraid to speak it. Don't be afraid to write it down and look at
Yeah.
it and be like, okay, I want that. I want that.
Yeah, that is super important. Whatever means that you do, whether it's a journal, you write it down, you get some pictures of it. When you speak something into existence, you actually write it down, like writing a goal list out. That makes it real, and it changes how you behave. Even like guys, I would suggest that you have a conversation with your spouse. I assume your audience is mostly men, so I'll speak to the guys specifically. If you have a conversation with your spouse and you're like, look, I am committed to you, I'm committed to this relationship, you're going to get a pretty good response. They might go, well, who are you? Why are you talking to me like this? If that's not normally how you speak. But in when you air out that commitment to something, especially someone in your relationship together, it changes the way you behave. It changes the way they perceive you. So they're like, oh, he's not out running around on me. Like he's probably just at the grocery store like getting something for us. Or the commitment is the important part because when you air that out, when you air out the commitment to your spouse, to your relationship, you behave differently and your spouse perceives it differently as well. Because if you say, look, I'm committed to you in our relationship, it's going to change their perception of you and your behavior. And then when you come across incidents where it's like, hey, like, am I deviating from what I'm committed to? And it can keep you on track and be like, no, I'm committed to this. This is what I need to do. And so whether it's your relationship or your business or whatever project you're working on, it's like I am committed to this and making it the most successful thing ever, whatever that thing is to you.
I totally agree, and I want to build on that because
Okay.
no, I love it. Perception.
Yes.
Perception is huge in life. And like my story I was talking about, the hunting guide earlier that just didn't look the part.
Hmm.
There's a reason why professional attire is professional attire, right? Like,
Sure.
if the president of the United States, regardless of whether or not you like the person or don't like the person, and whoever it is, they invited you to the White House to meet them and they wanted to do something with you. Would you show up in the scrubbiest of clothes to go
Mm.
there, or would you also present yourself and dress accordingly? All that
Sure.
is going with your confidence and leading with this is how the expectation of the event, the conversation, the
Hmm.
adventure of whatever it is, you are just speaking into existence, you're acting into existence what you are going to be getting out of it.
Sure.
And I think that,
It would just be like, if someone showed up for a hunting trip in a business suit, you'd be like, "What the heck?"
yeah,
Like, what you obviously have never been hunting before or know what this is all about. So definitely the perception is huge in any of that, and being aware of it for yourself and also being aware of how other people perceive you is important as well.
yeah, with not being afraid of judgment.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's because it's all contextual. It's like you said, if you're going to the White House, it's expected you dress a certain way. If you're going on a hunting trip, it's expected that you dress a certain way. But regardless, like, yeah, I don't care what anybody says about me. It makes me laugh. If someone throws an insult my way, like, it makes me think of a time in the jail that someone gave me a pair of pink handcuffs to take back to. I think a female officer had it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it. I don't care. Like, you can tell them it's mine." And like people were like, "Oh, you're gonna take it? You don't care?" I'm like, "I don't. Am I any less manly because I'm holding a pair of pink handcuffs?" I'm like, "I don't care. That's your perception you're putting on. And if you have that about me, I'm like, okay, I'm secure enough in my manhood that I can be like, I can carry around some pink handcuffs at work. I'll be all right. I promise."
Totally, totally. Listeners, I hope you guys have really gotten some good stuff out of this episode because this conversation transcends hunting. It transcends work. It is life. We are talking about life is now and how you show up in life being the most impactful thing for you in your enjoyment, your fulfillment, and your overall love for the life that you have been given. So, Justin, I want to make sure listeners know about your virtual summit you're putting on. So, can you give the listeners, for anyone who wants to dive deeper into these types of conversations and get outside of the normal box that we consider ourselves in, and we want to expand our mind, what is something that these listeners can go check out?
Definitely. No, I appreciate that, Johnny. I do have a virtual summit that's coming up at the end of February. So February 25th, 26th, and 27th. It's a 3-day event where I'll be interviewing, I think it's like 28, 29 different guys and talking about all different aspects. Because the three pillars that my business are focused on is health awareness, emotional fortitude, and mental toughness. And all of the men that we have gathered as speakers are talking about their area of expertise in different areas. So people like Tony Blauer, who has 45 years in personal defense. We've got Dean Stote, who's a former British Special Forces guy. Brad Lee, who's in the sales and marketing. He's all over the place now with his podcast, Dropping Bombs. A lot of different people. Mike the Cop is going to be on there. So a lot of great men talking about a lot of different topics, related to either health, your emotional fortitude, which I define as your ability to quickly recover from setbacks, disappointments, and failures. And then obviously mental toughness, your decision making, your ability to focus and work through a lot of the problems that we come across as men. So great event. It's a free event. The website is summit.confidenceunchained.com. And yeah, it's gonna be great, man. I hope you're able to be part of that as well, Johnny, and check it out. A lot of great interviews on there, brother.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm going to make sure that that's in the show notes because, ladies and gentlemen, either we are getting better in life or we're getting worse. So, if we're not constantly trying to sharpen ourselves and fine tune ourselves and work to be more efficient or better, then what are we doing? We're going to get sloppy. We're going to get lazy. We're going to be like a log that a river pushes downstream, bumping into everything because they have no direction, no rudder, no intent. So I really highly encourage this. And if this feels like it's outside your sphere of what you normally would do, maybe you should try it. And because you'll never know the power that it has until you try it. It's very easy to dismiss emotional health and mental fortitude and physical wellness and all this until you use it and apply it to whatever aspect of life it is, whether it's hunting, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your job, your hobbies, pastime. It is life-changing, life-transforming, because in this podcast we always talk about hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure. You have the opportunity to transform your life now from this point forward. And it starts by expanding into different avenues, such as going to this virtual summit. So it's free for anyone to go check out. Can you say that website address one more time?
Sure. It's summit.confidenceunchained.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure that's in our show notes. How can listeners connect with you if they're interested?
Sure. So my main website is just theconfidenceunchained.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, is probably my number one social media platform that I'm on. You can find me under Justin Atherton or under Confidence Unchained. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under Justin Atherton or Confidence Unchained as well. So those are the best places to get a hold of me.
I love it. Listeners, be inspired. Be of good cheer. Remember that inspired people inspire people. When you are inspired, you then get to inspire others around you. Just like me talking to my community and saying, no, we're going to win. We're in this film festival. We're going to win it. It's inspiring to everyone else, and we level up. I want to level up. I want to every day level up and make myself a better person than where I was yesterday, than where I was 6 months ago, last year, 10 years ago. And that's the point. That is the goal, and welcome to the Soulful Hunter. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Justin, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate everything. I look forward to actually connecting with you more because this has been impactful for me in my own life. And guys, go check out Justin, everything that he has. Go sign up for the virtual summit. It's something that you can pop in and out of and get whatever you need to out of it. But I guarantee you will walk away with something that's going to impact your life. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, freedom on and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.